Alrighty, so welcome to week 7 of Spring Semester 2015. Got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. I'm super pumped, and we'll get right into it. So briefly, what we're going to be going over is Brian Kindergren. If you're not glued to our Facebook page, shame on you, but I'm about to tell you some exciting news. Goals for March 24th. That's the wrong date there. Talking about some speakers that we have coming in, a event hosted by Long Beach VR, tablet gaming showcase, t-shirts isn't supposed to be there anymore, testimonials. I'll just talk about it anyway. There'll be no slide. Keep it loosey-goosey, easy to drop. So, Brian Kindergren is one of the lead writers over at Blizzard. He was the lead writer for, he was one of the co-writers of Wings of Liberty. He was the lead writer for StarCraft II: Heart of the Swarm. He is currently the lead writer for Diablo. And he's just a big old badass. And he's going to be coming in and presenting to us. And he's actually going to be sitting in on like our work while we're doing our scrums and things like that. And so it's going to be this really awesome opportunity for you to show off what it is that you can do as a component of VGDA's development. He's also done some other really cool things, like he got a start as a storyboard artist, doing storyboarding for such titles as Iron Giant, which was like my childhood right there, so I'm pretty stoked about that. Yeah, so really cool, and that's going to be happening March 24th.
The speaker will come March 24th?
The speaker is going to be coming March 24th, so that's, yes.
So should we bring like presenter portfolio to him? Like kind of arrange stuff?
No, but this is
Or is it just going to be collectively we're showing them?
It's like collectively we're showing everything. So this isn't like he's sitting down in your great portfolio and filling out filling out a job application or anything like that. It's not that at all. But you can kind of implicitly be like, oh, this is the thing that I did for this game project because I'm awesome, and you should totally tell someone at Blizzard that they should hire me. And yeah, but yeah, don't ask. You know, really, if we start impressing these people who are in the industry, then that's just going to be good for everyone involved in VGDA because it starts giving us a good reputation in the community. And so to that end, we have several goals for March 24th. It's kind of coming in at an opportune time because that's when we should have most of our primary game made anyway. So just to kind of lay out, and this is just going to be like reinforcing, like we really want to get to a point where we have some semi-polished gameplay, some story that's evident, some cool sound that's going to go on. We'll talk about that later, and some cool art assets and fun gameplay mechanics. So as far as some of the brief some of the brief goals that we have for technical, Shun and the first Oni need to be like totally implemented. The main menu, little changing needs to be implemented. Our final assets for most of the characters need to be finished. Shun and Oni 1 animated, and level 5 like finished and done, so that we have a play space. And there'll definitely be more. Not yet. There'll definitely be more for these to do. I'm sure. It's just this is things that I could think of at 2 o'clock last night. As far as content goes, it's a little bit more nebulous, so we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Next. Okay, so I made this slide before I had more information, but we have more speakers coming in, and some of the details are coming now, so there'll be a little bit less suspense. So we have Jay Hathaway coming in, who was for a really long time one of the lead animators of Blizzard, and he's currently at Fireforge Games, and it's going to be really cool to have such a experienced animator coming in, and again being able to look over our work and kind of do the same thing. And so that's going to be happening in like a month, I think, month and a half. We still need to nail down the exact dates. but it will be during one of our regular meetings, just like Brian Kindergan, so it'll really just work out pretty well. Long Beach Virtual Reality, the Long Beach Virtual Reality Group, run by Chris Kane, in association with us, are working together to put on a cool event where Samsung and Unity is going to come down and they're going to talk about some of their VR products. Unity, I'm guessing, is going to talk about some of their VR stuff and just generally how cool their engine is. For those of you who don't know, Unity is the game engine in which we are making our games, so it's kind of cool to have these experts come down and talk about the thing that we're relying on so heavily. And so it's really going to be an interesting opportunity to come in, learn more, and they're going to be feeding us partly. So, you know, hey, yeah, food, always like the end-all be-all of getting college students to do anything. Chris Kane and LBVR have been really awesome partners to VGDA in the past, and so it'd be really great if we could kind of reciprocate that and go out and support this event that they've worked hard to put on for us. Okay, cool. Another really awesome thing that's going to happen, ignore the YouTube link, I forgot that I am not doing sound right now. So in 10 days, March 20th, the bookstore is going to be putting on a tablet gaming showcase, which is going to feature this game called Vainglory by Super Evil Mega Corporation, which is Finnish or I don't know. They're far away, but their game Vainglory is like a League of Legends for iPhone and iPads and things like that. And it's really cool. It's pretty legit. It also has some really neat art things going on. And so there's going to be a tournament going on there, and they need teams because the guy who runs this really just wants people to come in and realize that the bookstore isn't just a place to buy overpriced books. They've made their prices more competitive, and they've done a lot of things. So actually, the bookstore is becoming a pretty cool place to hang out. And so Scott Vandegrift, the guy who runs Beach Tech, has been doing a lot of things to make it like a more fun thing. I don't know if you guys saw the shout out that I did a couple days ago, but they've partnered up with Newegg, and so Newegg, for those of you who have been living under a rock for a while, is a place where you can buy quality computer components and hardware and things like that for usually lower prices. And since Scott Vandeker is pretty awesome, he's actually made it so that we get a student discount on some of those already low prices for some of their featured items and things like that. And you can get more information about that just at Beach Tech. And yeah, so 8 teams are allowed to enter, and there will be no entrance fee. But because Newegg is, a generous and beneficent God, they've donated a ton of prizes. So we were actually going in, Scott and I were figuring out the prizes for this tournament, and it's $600 of prizes for this tournament of 24 people. It's pretty ridiculous as far as what you have to do to enter, which is be there at 11 o'clock in the morning, and then you play for 3 hours on and off while watching other people play or watching TV or other things like that. And then there's just tons of really cool prizes. They have some 240 gigabyte solid state drives and some gaming headsets and some really, really cool things. There are also going to be other tablet games, and there will be prizes given out to the high scorers in some of those tablet games, so that's pretty cool. And all of it's just free. He really just wants us to come in, hang out, and really so that we can show off what tablet gaming is coming into. Because it's not just Flappy Bird anymore. They're legitimate, really, not that Flappy Bird isn't legitimate, okay? Any game that makes that much money, totally legitimate game. But some really, really cool and AAA title level games that are going after those. So that's going to be kind of a cool thing to experience. Reagan and I are going to be on a team. We need one more person. So if you wanna start playing some Vainglory on whatever. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we have our team. So you guys are gonna have to make your own teams now. And if you want to sign up, just email me, President contact.vga, ignore the exclamation mark, @gmail.com to be like, hey, these are my 3 people. We're going to be there for sure, and then I'll send that off to Scott so that we can lock those in. Because there is only space for 24 people just because of time constraint. There's only space for 8 teams, and I think he already has 3 teams. It's going to be 4 teams pretty soon. So yeah, just let us know as soon as you can. And it's coming up soon. It's really going to be a casual thing. Just hang out, play games. It's going to be awesome. It's a Friday. Yeah. So, VGDA is all about benefiting you guys. And I know some people have been reaping the benefits of that already. And we're going to be hearing about that in a little bit. But we really want to hear back from you guys. And if you guys have any kind of stories about how VGDA has helped you guys out, like I know it's gotten me to some interviews that I probably would not have gotten otherwise. And I think that's the case for a couple of people in the room. Like I know one of our programmers, Brennan, he's basically got to an interview and all they asked him about was the work that he did for VGDA, so that's pretty cool. I know one of our artists is might be getting a job over at Carbine Studios in large part because of the art that he did for Persephone last semester. So, but these are the things that we want to hear. And so if you guys have any story at all, just send us an email over to contact.vgda@gmail.com. And we would, if you guys give us your permission, we'd love to start posting those on our website.
Okay.
Ignore this. T-shirts. T-shirts were really popular last semester, and we're thinking about, making more of them and having our artists, or really whoever, submit designs so that we can have these really cool customized T-shirts. So yeah, more information about that later. I'll be posting a Facebook poll about that in a little bit. So yeah, just a real quick side note. Anyone have any questions about anything? Brian Kindergan, speakers, the various events that we've gone over, what our goals are for the next couple of weeks? No? All right, cool. Well then, if there's nothing else, then what we'll do is we'll do what we normally do. So we'll be splitting off into our groups, doing the scrums, and then we'll get through those as fast as possible. One thing that I noticed about the scrums is that there's a lot of crosstalk going on. And I know that what we're trying to do with the crosstalk, it's like someone says, oh, I was working on this and I had a problem, and then someone else goes, oh, well, to solve your problem, like you did, might be this. And that seems like totally logical, and it's great, but it needs to be saved until the end of the scrum. So basically, everyone says, okay, this is what I did last week, these are the problems that I ran into, this is what I'm going to be doing next week, like 45 seconds, and you're done. And then all of the crosstalk can be saved until the end of the scrum. And that's just to make it, because otherwise these things tend to drag on for a really long time. And that's not the point. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. Other than that, everything's been great. Yeah, great.
Oh yeah, there's assets.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I got news for everyone.
Yeah.
Unity 5 is now released.
Yeah, it is.
And it's free.
It's free
And
now.
it's free.
You
It's all
can,
great.
you can make
So yeah,
whatever you
so
want.
this is our game.
Nice.
You can get hit 10 times before you die. Or I guess 10 times and then you die. And your lives in the bottom right-hand corner, and all that good stuff. We have the beautiful background, which is artfully created by one of our masters. But yeah, so this is the final art asset, sort of the final art asset for Shun. And so that's really cool to start getting some of those in there. The Oni asset is done, right, Jimmy? The Oni asset's done?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we can start subbing
Are
those
they
in.
animated?
No. Animated.
It's just like this.
Okay.
Well, this is just the one I pulled off Facebook, so I'm going
Yeah.
to go grab the one that's actually pretty.
And so we're going to start posting these builds on our Facebook page, and I highly encourage everyone to come in and break the living crap out of them. I don't know if you guys remember, like Persephone, there were a lot of really awesome bugs that we found just through playtesting. And that actually helps out the technical people a lot, so play games, it helps us. Yeah. So yeah, cool. Another round of applause to for doing all this amazing work. Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about? Do you want to talk about what you guys worked on last week, what you're going to be working on this week, stuff like that?
Sure. So this week, if you saw those weird like black box looking things, those are the spawn points. Those won't be visible when the game's done. That'll allow us to kind of just drop one into a spot on the page and say this is where all the enemies are going to come from. We worked on some other enemy types. You didn't get to see them all in there, but we have some progress on one that can kind of fire the arrows in bursts, and also one that can kind of fire out arrows in sort of a spread to screw with you. There is also a catch mechanic in there. It's just kind of messed up right now, so we're working on that. And I'm sure you guys caught a few bugs in the code there, but it's all getting fixed slowly. Yeah, so this next week we're going to try and actually get the layout done for level 1 and level 5, because if I understand right, that's what's being worked on by the art team, right? And the content team? Yeah? Okay, so we're going to start working on those and actually getting a physical layout, and then as we get the art assets, we'll just drop them. It'll be good. And probably try and get a little bit more of a menu set up for it too, so you can jump between the levels. That's pretty much it.
All right. One more time.
My name is Joe Sanders. If you remember the theme for Persephone, that was me. I did that. And I thought I would talk about something that I'm passionate about, which is audio folk not being an afterthought in the development process, because it's kind of that way in games and film. And just, I think there's kind of a gap in education about just kind of how the hell to deal with this. So I made a quick PowerPoint thing just to kind of give you a few little tidbits about working with composers and sound designers.
Hey, maybe. Looks like it's sort of there. Sweet. Might respond.
Maybe.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Alright, cool. We can move to the next one. Alright, cool. So, first of all, where to find us. Audio folk are notoriously, I think, the most aggressive because we have to be, because, like I said, there's kind of this gap and, like, no one really knows what to do with us, where to find us. So if you go on the internet, I mean, obviously, I would say first person you should talk to is, like, people from here because, you know, personal connections are cool. But if you go on SoundCloud, that's where we post our portfolios, like our bodies, our favorite things of work that we want to show potential employers and collaborators. You know, if you can find people's sites, that's great. You know, obviously check the credits of games you like. If you go to events like, you know, if you sell your car, sell your house, whatever, and get to go to GDC because it's freaking expensive. Go to there. I know there are like meetups and stuff. Like you will find those guys because they really, really want to find you. And you know, talking with people in person is cool too. Personal connections are great. Game Audio Network Guild is actually an awesome organization that gave me my scholarship to go to GDC last week. So yeah, Gang is a wonderful group of people. They're super nice. If you go to them and say you need somebody, I'm sure they'll help you out. Next one. So the big thing I wanted to stress is what we need from you. When you're building a game, what do you need? What do we need from you? For sound designers, I'm not a sound designer. I'm just a composer. So all I do is write music. Not all I do, but that's my thing. A lot of guys do both, but currently I just do music. Making sound effects without animations, for reference, is like going through Victory Road or any cave in Pokemon without Flash. I'm serious. You really need that. It's just kind of a shot in the dark without that. So make sure they have something to go by. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it needs to look pretty much like what it's going to look like in the game. For composers, we thrive off of writing emotions. And I wrote, what would you like your players to feel? Because that's really what we're going for. Like, you know, just tell us, oh, I want this to be sad and I want this thing in it. And another important thing to think about is finding a balance between giving us, you know, obviously we'd like for you there to be a clear direction of what we'd like the game to sound like with the effects and the music. But we'd also like there to be, you know, like anybody else, some artistic freedom to, you know, let our voice be heard. So, good. Hey, can you make us something sad with strings and guitar that sounds like it might be from BioShock or Diablo? Or good, I like the music from these 5 different games, movies, etc., so I'd like a combination of those. Like 2 weeks ago, Emily gave me a list of things, including like some Miyazaki films and some other really cool scores that she wanted maybe this game to sound like. Thanks, please. So bad. Do whatever you want. Please don't ever say that, as you might think you're being really nice, but at least with music folks, I don't know how you guys are, but constraints can actually be kind of a good thing. So if it's tough, and I wrote on there, I kind of wrote a little essay on there, but in my opinion, saying do whatever you want is the easiest way to get unnecessary revisions done, because say they do whatever you want, and it doesn't end up being to your liking or working with the game, then we have to do our job over again, and while revisions are really good, because that creates better and better versions, having to do unnecessary stuff like that is just, kind of painful. And then on the other side of the spectrum, please don't ever do this. This is from a film director that my friend worked with. He made a very terrible looking Excel spreadsheet, which is way too specific.
And it's mixing and
Yeah.
confusing.
So you don't want to do this because this is like choking us. You don't want to say, oh, it should be doing exactly this. Like I said, a little bit of artistic freedom is great. You can scroll through the next couple of those. So this looks pretty terrible. We can go on, another one, and yeah. So those are kind of two examples of what not to do. A few more things, like everyone else here, our job takes a bit of time to do well, so please be kind with your deadlines. Don't come to us 24 hours before you need all this cool music, because it won't be very good. And if I stress anything today, let it be this second point here. Good way to think of it, good, fast, and cheap, you can pick two. So if you want a good score that's cheap, you're not going to get it very fast. Or if you want a score that, you get it. So please don't ask us to blatantly copy somebody else's work. Nobody likes to be a copycat. That's just boring. And while, for this, obviously, we're working on music with that. We haven't really seen a lot of the game yet. Well, we don't technically need to see anything before we start writing the loops for the levels and stuff. It really does help to have something visual to go off of. Obviously, seeing the concept art. I wrote the theme for Persephone just by looking at, concept art drawings of her character, which were awesome. That was all I needed, and some story elements. Let's see, next one, please. I think there's one more. Okay, so these are long. Another important thing is, instead of, you probably didn't need to notice this, on that Excel thing where the guy was strangling you if they're being too specific, rather than trying to learn our musical language and trying to throw around accelerando, crescendo, learning all these fancy sounding words, just try to develop a vernacular for us to speak in with you, because I wouldn't try to throw around fancy programming words, because I do not know anything about programming or drawing amazing art or anything like that. If you want any kind of musical interactivity, which we're thinking about for this, I still have to make sure we can do that in the amount of time that we have. Make sure your music person, or if you're lucky enough to have an audio programmer, make sure they know something like Fmod or Wise. Those are the engines that are most commonly used for interactive audio. Make sure they know that, because that's not a walk in the park. And then lastly, it's kind of fairly difficult to take our work on the road, because we need to work. We spend a lot of time tailoring our workspace. That includes special speakers called studio monitors to work for us, and so it's very hard to take it on the road. I think that's it. Yeah, any questions? I know that was a lot to throw at you, but it's something I care about. Any questions?
What was GDC like?
It was insane, and I think the one thing I would say about GDC and any event like that is, I don't know, I kind of did it by the 5-minute rule for me. Unless you had a 5-minute conversation with a person, if you had a conversation where you asked them their name, their occupation, their passions, whatever, if you had a meaningful conversation, then it's okay to offer something like a business card or a portfolio or some opportunity to connect with them later in hopes that that might be a good networking contact for you. If you're just talking to them for a couple seconds, it's kind of dicey. It's kind of frowned upon a bit. Especially, I think a lot of people our age fall into that trap, and I have, I have certainly fallen into that trap. But yeah, that's the thing. I'd say just talk with people as long as you can, and actually make like some personal connections. Yeah. Thanks, y'all.
All right.
So for this, or for last week's task, we were concentrating on getting a final design for Shun and the Oni Archer and getting the assets done for it, as well as trying to get some environment concept art in for level 5. And then for Shun, just something Clute and I were kind of working on is a idea of a family insignia or scout insignia for her culture or her family specifically. And then we just have here, this is Clute's design for her, and we are going to play later on the idea of her having some face paint. Next. And this is my interpretation of Clute's design, trying to simplify it more than what he had. Yeah. And then here, this is kind of the concept art that kind of got us going on where we're going to go finally for our Oni Archer. This is by Jimmy here. It was, what level was it again? Level 4 enemy. Nice. And then he did some level 1 and level 2 as well. We really liked where he was going with the mask, the graphic style of it, and the uniqueness of it. Next. And so for the final Oni Archer, we kind of thinking of combining the 3. So we went with Clute's base and then some of Jimmy's elements, and we took a bit from Gil's design as well, especially that sash she had there, and we came up with this. This is Jimmy's concept, but the actual final design is the next one. Here. The level 1 Oni Archer final design. We decided to go more with green tones to have this jade coloring that was more connected to the east, and to have colors that kind of stood out against Shun, so they looked like they were from different cultures, the north and south. Next. And then for environment, just some concepts we got from people there. I know there are more concepts, but people did not post them, so this is what we have. This was by Aaron, Nathan, and then Jamie. And then here we have finalized game assets, which will for sure be in the game, just so you can,
Sorry. Sorry, my computer's.
just so we can see, you can see here how we're going with this style for the environment, how it's looking right now. And then task for this week, we're going to try and focus on getting those animations done for Shun and the Oni Archer, as well as getting the environment assets and floor map done. Then secondary, you're going to be working on the UI interface with font, health bar, ammo bar, and then storyboards for the cutscenes.
And then that's what one of our artists was doing at the end of the week.
And then for our Trello board, I figured out how to make it public so anyone can look at it now, even though you're not a member of the organization. You don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
There it is. Go to it.
And then just any questions, comments, or feedback on the art.
Looks pretty awesome. All right. Thank you very much.
So, Positive Week 7 update, this is what we've been working on. First of all, we were asked to change the name. Some people felt it was, or the name of the game, some people felt it was a little bit too generic. So we brainstormed on that, and what we came up with is The Last Arrow. So it still has the kind of feel of The Last Stand. It's like, this is the final arrow, this is, or this is the final moment for our protagonist, but it's a little bit less generic. You're not going to find a billion games named The Last Arrow if you Google it. So that's what we're liking. I think it's pretty similar to the old names, so you guys won't have to mess with the logo too much, which is nice. But we all like the kind of images in both. So this week we were working on fleshing out level 1, like we did for level 5 last week. So we have the Burning Village, it's a tutorial level. So it's a little village on the edge of the southern wall. The southern wall is breached, Onis flood through. Shun finds them. There's bodies everywhere, dead soldiers, her friends, her lover. And like burned out shells of villages and stuff. And I have all this visual description because I don't actually have the file for the map yet in this PowerPoint because I made it like 2 seconds ago. But anyway, so basically what we're going to do in this level is there's a little tutorial. You start with your enemy right in front of you. He shoots an arrow at you. You catch the arrow. Then you shoot it back to him. Your return, and yeah, basically that's it. So there's an arc of enemies before you. There's heavy cover away from the enemies because it's kind of a tutorial level. We want it to be a little forgiving. And lighter, sparser cover closer to the enemies. So they're like, the closer to the breach you are, the more the buildings have been ruined. And then there's kind of like bigger pieces of buildings further away so that you can kind of hide, get your boundaries, figure out your controls before venturing out to where it's dangerous. So the goal for that is to defeat all the enemies, and then you can go to the next one. So this is basically stuff that I again pulled from Katrina's Pinterest board just to kind of give you a feel. So it's a little village. It's a little more burnt. This is from Mulan. This is my favorite movie. But yeah, so it's a little bit like just kind of ruins of a village in the Mongolian grasslands. So another thing that we worked on was figuring out like actual objectives for the level. So because originally we were just going to have, okay, kill all the enemies and then move on. But that's a little bit boring as far as gameplay. So we figured out some cool different things. So obviously the first one is kill all the enemies and move on because it's the first level. It should be the most basic. On level 2, there's going to be a barrier. So you're going to have to shoot it while also dodging arrows and killing people who are shooting at you. Then once that's broken, then you'll be able to advance. On level 3, you're going to have to survive long enough for the big guns to show up, and they're going to break down a wall for you, like the ballista demons, because they have their big-ass arrows, and they're going to break down the wall for you. And level 4, just survive as many waves as you can as you're heading up. And then level 5, obviously, is survive as long as you can before you die. We also did something really narratively cool. I'm sure you guys don't care, but I think it's really awesome. So I'm going to tell you all about it. So we wanted her to start with 1 arrow, right? And we want that arrow to be significant. So we were thinking opening cutscene, she's cradling her dead lover, pulls an arrow out of her body. That's going to be the first arrow she starts with. But then as we were working on the tutorial, we were like, well, it really works better if she catches an arrow first and then is able to shoot it. But if she has 2 arrows, then that's less narratively significant. So we were like, well, what if she takes the arrow out of her lover's dead body and then stores it away, and that's the arrow she shoots? And we were like, wow, that's awesome. But then it gets awesomer. So she takes the arrow she pulls out of her lover is going to be the one she shoots, but it needs to be on fire because it needs to light the brazier. So we're like, well, maybe she just has this stuff to light an arrow on fire on her because she's an archer. But we were thinking, well, in the second level, there's going to be this big barrier of like cloth and like spell tags and rope and stuff. So maybe on the second level, she pulls rope from there, and that's what she wraps her arrow in to light it on fire. And on the third level, there's all these statues and stuff. So maybe she takes like the sacred sacrificial oil from the statues, and that's what she pours on the rope to be able to light it on fire. And then in the fourth level, there's all this rubble and rocks and stuff. So she takes flint and tinder from that, and then all together, she wraps it. She takes the arrow she found on the first level and wraps it in the cloth she found on the second level, doused in the oil she found on the third level, lights it up with the flint she found on the fourth level, and that's what she shoots. So it's kind of like every step of the way has been significant. And so yeah, we were super excited about that because we're all nerds. But all right. Oh yeah, so this week we've given artists now, we have 2 levels that are for the most part done. So we are going to be focusing on our storyboards. We're going to try and get the first storyboard, or the first cutscene, and then the last 2 cutscenes, which are all like the really story significant ones done. We're going to try and get a mock-up of the UI, and we're going to be playtesting your game and figuring out what we need to do for balance. Cool. Any questions? Everyone excited?
Yeah.